Hi, my name's Lee and I'm the Business Development Director for Rubicon Bridge. If you cast your mind back to 2019, you'll probably remember a sort of sense of impending doom in the UK. It was sort of waiting to see what was going to happen when the UK left the EU. And then also we were kind of hearing all these horror stories about COVID-19, and that was kind of catching up with us too. Back then, we were seeing the growth of e-commerce, and we were seeing individual brands trying to kind of catch up with that growth. And the great thing about e-commerce is that you can launch products in multiple marketplaces, and you can sell, for the most part, identical products in all those marketplaces. Why it took a lot of the big brands to kind of a while to catch up with that is because of the complexity around the regulations within the EU and now separately with the UK as well. So back then, if you wanted to launch, say, a food supplement in Germany, Italy, France, Spain and the UK, what it meant was that you would almost certainly be paying a third party, a regulatory affairs company, to manually check the product formulation, the label, everything that goes into it to make sure it's compliant and safe for consumers. Typically the way brands would do that is they do that in one country first, so say English first. Then they'd send it to, say, 5 experts in each of those countries, have it translated 5 times, and then have it checked 5 times. And then you end up with this maelstrom effect where you get a version 1 artwork, which is basically, before it goes to print, like a live mock-up of what the artwork or the finished packaging label is going to look like. And typically this would be hosted on a design agency's website, and this is where all these 6 experts come together alongside the brand, printers, anyone who has anything to do with that product, and they would write comments on it. At the time I was working for a brand that was doing just this. As the brand owner, I was one of the last to look at the artwork, and what you do when you spot something wrong with the artwork is you add a little annotation. By the time I got to check the artwork, there were over 120 annotations, which meant that there were over 120 errors that needed to be fixed. So it really was a painful process. And even just getting to that point, that could take you 4 or 5 months just to get the copy right that would end up on the packaging. Emma and Catherine are co-founders. They've been in regulatory affairs for a long time, for decades. They run a regulatory affairs company and they have a lot of expertise in the area. They were actually supporting the brand that I was working for at the time with the launches. And they sort of saw this as an opportunity, because you'd think in those circumstances this is stupid, there must be a better way of doing this. So what they decided to do was create technology to solve the issue. If you imagine every time you're making a check on a product, that means that you're having to check 5, 10, 15 different regulations, and then that's just one country, so you have to do it all over again in multiple countries, and then you've got the issues of translations as well and errors that can occur. So what they did with Rubicon Bridge was they said, this is stupid, there must be a better way of doing this. And they identified first and foremost one of the major issues was that you would have manufacturers entering the formulations on behalf of a brand. And a lot of times that would just be free text in a product life management tool that would then be manually checked. As soon as you allow for free text, you sort of open yourself up for all sorts of issues. So instead of that, they developed Rubicon Bridge, which is a dynamic repository of regulatory requirements, which empowers the brand owners directly, or the manufacturers or retailers, to input information themselves and check live themselves as well. So I mentioned before that it could take 4 or 5 months to generate that compliant copy. The first trial that we did in 2020 with a customer, we reduced that down to 4 minutes. And as soon as we did that, we knew we were onto something big. And then that's where we are today. We're scaling the tool, we're working with more customers, we're looking at more countries, and we're looking at different product areas as well.